Hello, Betsaida. Welcome to the Speak to Lead podcast. It's great to have you on today. And the subject of today is you. We're going to be speaking about your journey with learning to communicate in English. You're going to tell us a bit about yourself, and I've got some questions here which I look forward to hearing the answers to. So I think the first place we'll start out with is if you can let the viewers out there know a little bit about yourself. Who are you and where are you and what do you do?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Joe. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be uh, with the podcast today and the viewers. Hello, everyone. My name is Betsaida. I am from Brazil originally. And right now I am residing in Melbourne, Australia. And what I'm doing right now is I am a secondary school teacher. And it's funny. It's actually, I just want to quote what my student told me the other day. She came to me and said, Miss, do you know what is ironic? And I go, what? And she goes, you're from Brazil. I said, yeah. And you're an English teacher. I said, yeah. Yeah, that's ironic. I said, yeah, I'm from Brazil. So, which means I'm not an English native speaker. But my teaching degree, my master's, my method was English. So I decided to come to Australia and teach English here. How fun is it? But yeah, this is me enjoying my life here in Australia.
And
And
and how
yep,
long have you been in Australia for now?
okay. It's been around 1 year and I'll say 3 months. Not too
Okay, so
long.
actually, wow, a decent chunk of time.
Mm-hmm,
And I can tell that you've got quite this bubbly attitude about you, quite expressive. Um,
mm-hmm.
do you use humor and the attitude that you have in your teaching, and does that work quite well, especially given that you're speaking to students in not your native language? How do you find that?
Yeah, good that you asked about humor. I recall a moment when I was still teaching English in Brazil, and I used to do ESL, right? ESL because our native language is Portuguese, and I had this student. I noticed since the start she was a bit, shy. She wouldn't turn on her webcam because we had online sessions. She wouldn't turn on her webcam. She would be always hiding, avoiding the speaking practices. But in our classes, we would always have this sort of attitude, making fun of ourselves. It's okay. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Don't worry. Oh my gosh. How do I pronounce that name? I forgot. We even laugh about our own mistakes sometimes. I don't know, makes sentences or stutter. And I was like, okay, guys, I'm so sorry. And everybody laughs. And, we're just having a good time, fun time together while we're learning. And I noticed that eventually she started to, talk more, have more time in speaking practices, like more active time in speaking practices, not just letting her partner or peer or group speak, but also would take the flow and would talk. And by the end of the course that was running, she came to me and said, Miss, thank you so much. I had a trauma to speak English. And the way you teach helped me a lot. So you taught me that it is okay to make mistakes. It is okay to get something wrong sometimes, but you can still learn from your mistakes. So this is how I see learning, and this is my attitude towards learning, especially when it comes to now talking about young people. Of course, we as adults, we make mistakes, so kids will make mistakes. And this attitude, taking, mistakes with humor, just light-hearted learning, it's much better. In fact, humor, if you read a few articles on humor, some scholars will say that humor in fact does help a lot with learning, because you're
Mm.
going to have more satisfaction with learning, you're going to enjoy it, and you're more likely to even pay attention to what is being said and to the instructions. So if you ever are curious about data on how humor and having the positive attitude in the classroom coming from the teacher, um, how it can affect learners, it's a good idea to have do a bit of a research on how positive it is. It is. We are human beings. We love humor, right? So yeah, it's not different with learners in the learning practice. I like to take that to the classroom as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think that is so important. I mean, as adults, so many adults struggle because they're so afraid of making mistakes. They see the mistake as being a failure. And I think a lot of that
Mm-hmm.
comes through their experience in school. So the fact that you're
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you're taking that pressure off in the school environment
Yes.
where students are already under so much pressure to perform and to get things right. I'm sure I'm not surprised that that serves the students well in school, but I'm also sure that that will positively impact them later on in life as well, because
Mm-hmm.
hopefully through working, having that humor, obviously it's a lot more fun and enjoyable
Mm-hmm.
and engaging, but also later on in life they're going to be more open to making mistakes and not taking themselves and
Absolutely.
the things so seriously. So that's wonderful. I
Yes.
I can imagine being in a class with you, and that that energy being contagious.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, very cool. I'm so glad to hear that that is something that is
Yeah.
that you're intentionally using in the classroom and it's getting the results that you're after.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering what made you to decide, or how did you decide to become a teacher in the first place? And follow up from that would be also, why did you choose to teach in Australia and not in, say, Brazil, where you're originally from?
It's a great question. I think it's a question that all teachers will one day face. I remember the other day, a student came to me and he asks, Miss, why did you decide to become a teacher? And I go and I ask him, what do you think? And he goes, because you like teaching? I said, no, the opposite. And he goes, you hate teaching? I said, no, because I like learning. And he's intrigued and he's thinking for a moment. In fact, when we teach, especially for me, the moment where I'm teaching is the moment that I'm actively and learning in the most, let's say, deep level, because you are going through that knowledge again. And I decided to become a teacher, especially after a moment. I always remember this moment. A few years ago, back in Brazil, I have a best friend. Her name is Ruti. And one day she comes to me and she goes, Betty, can you please teach me English? I really would like to start learning from scratch. I said, okay. So I go to her house and we go to her room and have this small table. And I get there, it's all ready to go. And I start teaching her grammar and things like pronunciation, because ESL. Um, and I'm explaining her things, and she's so excited. And she goes, oh, this is the reason why. And I go, yeah, girl, this is the reason
Yeah.
why. And I am so happy to see that happening. Like the mentoring feeling, like when you teach something and you actually see the change in someone else's life. So at that moment, something clicked. And I go like, this is what I want to do. In fact, when you live in Brazil, you think, I never want to be a teacher. Everyone tells you, don't become a teacher, because teachers, they are not valued enough in Brazil, a low paying job. People don't respect teachers. But at that moment, I go like, I can't do anything else. I have to teach. I love teaching English. This is what I want to do. And eventually, I start doing my teaching degree. And you might think, okay, so why didn't you decide to become a teacher in Brazil in the first place, right? That's the question.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is, I wanted to come to Australia way before I decided to become a teacher. So the dream of coming to Australia came when I actually came for the first time to Australia when I was 16 in an exchange program. So the government of Pernambuco, my state in Brazil, he would offer to the best students this exchange is like a scholarship. So you would come to Australia or New Zealand or the United States or Canada. They would offer
Okay.
this scholarship to the best students. They would spend 6 months in a foreign country, learning the language, culture. And once I came back to Brazil, I had this dream, oh, one day I want to come back to Australia, but I never thought of becoming a teacher. So I always had this dream. So the teaching came after. So teaching English in Australia is a result of first Australia in the first place, plus teaching that came later. So two things blended together, and here I am.
That's a great story. Okay, so you just sort of combine these
Yeah,
dreams, these desires.
yeah.
That's great. I also I love that you view teaching as a learning experience for yourself as well, and I think it's also so
Mm-hmm.
useful that you pointed that out to your student as well. That
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like, I mean, I'm a mindset coach myself, and I can see these different dynamics playing out and what kind of impact they have on us as we grow older. And I think making it making it clear to the student that being in the role of teacher is not just about, it's not a one-way process. It's not you taking
Mm-hmm.
your knowledge and dumping it into somebody else, but rather a
Mm-hmm.
back and forth. And hopefully that's also
Mm-hmm.
something that they'll take moving forward and seeing like, okay,
Correct.
it's a learning experience as much as
Yes.
a
I
teaching
learned so
experience.
much with them. Yeah, I learned a lot. They have no idea. But
Mm,
the ideas, when we're discussing, sharing, and I go, wow, I never thought of that. And I just wait a minute, and I go like, and everybody's staring at me, and I go, oh, bro, I never thought of it. And I just go and take that to another class because they sometimes are just brilliant. Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, what a wonderful mindset and frame of mind to be
Yeah.
in that teaching role. Like, okay, what can I learn from my students that I can then impart on other students
Yeah.
as well.
Hmm.
So you obviously speak very well, and you're currently in the Speak to Lead program where you're learning to communicate more.
Hmm.
I'd love to hear what is your relationship with speaking and what is it that you're currently working on when it comes to your communication goals? What are they?
Okay. So I have a few long-term um, speaking, communication, blah, blah, blah goals. I just want to
Yep.
mention the first one, the very first reason, the main reason that made me join Speak to Lead. It's in simple words, is to be a better teacher. So what I see in the classroom is that the way you communicate, the way you give instructions, the way you teach has a specific impact on students, right? So in terms of speaking, for example, today, I just thinking of an example, something that happened today. Students, so the first thing we do is to tell students the learning intentions. So I put up the learning intention on the board. So this is what we want to do today. So learning intention is basically what we want to learn today. So for example, today we want to learn about genres. Okay. It's a learning intention.
Mhm.
And I tell the whole class, please get your exercise books and write down the learning intention. And it's completely normal that you have a few students that will be looking at the board and they still don't know what to do, even though I just gave them instructions. So I come closer to them and I just tell them, you can copy what is on the board. And I go, and they start doing it. Because sometimes
Mm.
copy for students is probably much easier than writing.
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
it's an easier process because you don't have to think about it, because writing down something, sometimes they will think, oh, what do I have to write? But that when you say copy, oh, just have to copy. So the adaptation is key when you are in the classroom, because you have low level students, median, high level, and you have to be able to navigate, okay, in terms of language and communication
Mm.
through all these levels, and be able to bring the students to the work or to whatever you need them to do. So it is really important to be effective in communication in the classroom, especially because we're very short of time. So you gotta be able to give instructions to the general class, to the whole class, but at the same time be able to model your instructions to students that won't understand straight away. So this is the main reason that I decided to 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 join Spectalate, to improve my communication. Of course, as always, being cautious of my own performance. I want to speak better every single day, but the way you communicate in the classroom, even today as well, lots of things happen today. So
It's great.
today
It's great that we're having this recording today then.
everything happened today. So today we had a meeting. Usually we have meetings on Mondays, and today the meeting was about differentiation. What is differentiation to the ones who are listening to us? It's basically how you can adjust, adapt, or change the work for each level of students. Okay. For students that is low performance, you're gonna create an easier task. For the ones that are high, you're gonna give them more challenging. Okay. So we will discussing differentiation today. All teachers there. So one part of differentiation, for example, is not only the task you give to students, but the way how you give instructions, right? So the
Right.
way you talk to a low performance student, to a medium and high, and even the students with disability, students that require really special care, which I love. I love my students, all of them. But you have to be able to communicate and navigate and change and adapt. I have this this mindset that you are a good teacher or a good communicator. Let's put good communicator when you are able to speak to either a king or a baby, and they both will understand what your point is. So this is the main reason why I decided to to be a better teacher. That's it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So improved speaking and communication for you, it sounds like signifies adaptability, the ability
Mhm.
to adapt your communication for the person, for the audience that you're
Yes,
speaking with.
perfect. Hmm.
Such an important skill, isn't it? I think
Hmm.
that a lot of the troubles that end up coming in many different areas of life, but I know that this is one that happens in relationships, for example, is that we have one way of communicating, and if the person that we're speaking to, especially our partner, doesn't understand that way of communicating, we just repeat it or shout it or
Yes.
get louder. And but really, the art of communication is that
Hmm.
adapting and
Adapting.
being able to being
Perfect.
able to speak in the way
Yes.
that the other person understands.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Now, I hear that you also are you want to be considered for leadership positions someday.
Hmm.
Is that in your role as a teacher? So more senior roles in the school, or what kind of roles are you interested in that field?
Yeah, mainly as a teacher, mainly in the educational field. We do have few positions of responsibility in a school. Um, And it is really important to have good communications, because communication skills, because you do have to talk a lot, explain a lot, and
Mm.
mainly in that particular position, you get to talk to children, parents, other teachers, principals every single day. And you got to be able to address the situation, address the person, very, with the perfect, not the perfect, but the best precision that you can. You don't want to be too long, but you have to communicate your message completely, entirely. So communication does play a very important role in leadership. I have a belief myself. Maybe somebody said that someday, and I have this belief
Hmm.
that is, most people nowadays in positions of responsibility, sometimes it's not their knowledge that brought them to that position, but it's their ability to communicate effectively. You see, for example, when you provide a good, effective answer. And let me give a simple example. For example, in a job interview, when your answer is effective and efficient, you're more likely to be considered for the position, even if the previous candidate, the previous person has probably better experience, skills than you. So sometimes communication, not sometimes, I'll say the most times, communication is really important if you're considering positions of responsibility and leadership in
Right.
whichever field.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose it doesn't matter how much you know if you can't communicate that to anybody, then
Absolutely.
it's useless. So
Yes.
I'm hearing that communication is that key skill that you see as being necessary to get you to those leadership positions.
Absolutely. Hmm.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I also think that, I mean, we're having this podcast obviously on the Speak to Lead platform and all about Oracy Club, but that
Yes.
the ability to communicate is just one of those skills that it just helps you in every area of your life, whether that's professionally, personally, in your relationships. It's just so versatile and useful.
Even nowadays, politicians, they sometimes they don't need to do what they said, but they just need people to believe that they'll do. But
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
another talk.
Unfortunately, that's where that sort of there's a whole lot of the ability to communicate stuff without the substance behind it. We need
Hmm. Such
need some
good
politicians
ability.
who, yeah. So need some politicians who also have the competence to back up their
Yes.
confidence.
That's what we need. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd love to hear what advice would you give to other non-native English speaking professionals in particular? I think that's quite useful. So what advice would you give to non-native English speaking professionals who are also looking to develop their speaking and communication skills and become more confident in that field?
Um, I would say that confidence is a mindset. Okay. Especially the mindset. If you don't have the mindset, look for somebody that can help you to develop and build that mindset that you need. For myself, for example, I'm very perfectionist and I want to do everything always perfectly. I don't want to admit any mistakes. And sometimes it it is not very positive, but having the right positive, the right mindset, like, I don't have to be perfect. I am a great teacher already. I'm a good communicator already. Helps a lot to be confident in your own skin
Mm.
and to be yourself. So working on your own confidence first, because the first one will lead to the second one. When you are able to make mistakes and just don't care about it, just don't, it's not that you don't care about your mistake, is that you don't care about what people think. Because if you're not willing to make mistakes, you're not willing to learn.
Mm.
You can't learn without making mistakes. This is the way I see. That's usually what I tell my students. So it's like, it is a piece of paper, and let's say this is everything that I've spoke today, but today I made a mistake, right? Today I made a mistake. It was a grammar pronunciation, and see that it resulted in a trauma. It's like a small trauma
Mm-hmm.
and a piece of paper, right? And every time that I look back at that particular mistake, I will remember, oh, that trauma. This is not that should be that. That's not how it should be pronounced. That's not how it should be said. That's not how it's not the right chunk of words to be put together, because that trauma, that little trauma, will activate something in my brain that will make me learn. So we
Mm.
might see something negative here with the trauma, but actually it is teaching us. Because every time that I look back at the paper, look back at the situation that happened, I will say, I know straight away. So that little trauma, this is what I tell my students, is that micro trauma in your brain that makes you remember, oh, no, that's not how you pronounce, that's not how you say, that's not the right translation, or this is not the right signpost to use here, or it's missing a comma, it's missing something. So this will help you a lot. So not be afraid to make mistakes, because a narrow mistake, this is what is actually helping you to learn and
Yeah.
helping you to actually advance in language. Because if you are always afraid to make mistakes, you'll never put yourself in a situation that you actually have to use that language, because you can understand a lot. This is what most non-native English speakers will say. I understand a lot, but I can't speak. But we can't speak because we are not putting ourselves in a situation that we will have to use all that passive vocabulary, that the vocabulary that we listen, we understand, we read, we understand, but we actually don't use them. Bring to the active, the one that we use in speaking, in writing. So being able to make mistakes without feeling, oh, I shouldn't be making mistakes, is the key. So build your confidence first. Make sure that you're confident on your own skin to make these mistakes, and these mistakes will eventually make you a better communicator. Because, to be really honest, most of the native speakers, they don't really care about you, about your mistakes. They don't really care. So yeah, I think I'll say these two main things: be confident and make
Great.
mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed that as well. You know, I also had to learn a second language, and that if you get over, it's almost like getting over yourself. You know, get over
Mm-hmm.
yourself and just put
Get over
yourself
yourself.
out there, and
Yeah,
you know,
just do it.
and when you practice, yeah, I mean, it's one of those funny things. Like, oh, you just got to do it. You just got to get
Just
on
do
and
it.
do it. But I'm
Like,
curious. You said, yeah, you said develop the confidence enough to then put yourself out there. Do you have any advice on how to develop that confidence in the first place if you're somebody who can't get yourself to the point to speak and to practice the language? How do you develop that confidence first?
I think it really depends on your context. I might be speaking now to people that were, for example, like me in Brazil, I didn't have like somebody to practice with. And I just want to be mindful of these people, because for me, that would be easy to say, oh, just go out there, join a book club or join the gym. But I'm living in that context
Mm.
of my second language. So for me, it's easy to say. So if you're living in that context, just go outside, please. You just go. But if you're not living in that context of the second language, and you're, for example, in Italy learning Japanese, or if you are in Brazil learning English, um, try to immerse yourself the way you can. It's difficult to build confidence without practice. It is difficult to build confidence without practice. If you can afford a tutor, go for a tutor, because sometimes we just need somebody to tell us you're doing great. Sometimes that's all we need. Sometimes you just need a native speaker to tell us, look, I can completely understand everything you say. And this just builds confidence, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Tell me you, Joe, if you're learning a second language, so imagine that I'm a native speaker of the language you learn it, and I just go, wow, you speak so fluently. You would go, oh, thank you, right? You would
Yeah,
be, your
yeah, definitely.
confidence would
Yep.
rise up to the sky. So having a tutor would be really helpful. But again, I also want to be mindful of those who can't afford a tutor. Put yourself in apps, in Facebook groups, in places where you can find those people who will eventually, they will tell you, oh, you speak so well. How did you learn that? Eventually, you will hear that. If you
Mm,
put yourself into the situation, you will hear that. So the main thing is you can find the confidence within yourself. You can, but usually this is not always the rule, not always what happens. So usually the confidence comes with another native speaker who tell us, wow, you're doing a great job. So put yourself in a situation to listen that from someone, or at least
mm.
have the feedback. This is where you need to improve. This is what you're doing great. Um,
That's
look for a
that's
tutor, look for a
mm.
partner. Yeah.
Yes, that's really great advice actually. That sometimes if we, I suppose, real internal confidence comes through competency and practice and evidence. But if we don't have that, then sometimes getting that confidence, having somebody else believe in us and inspire us is the way to build that confidence before we have our own evidence to support that belief.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Especially if you're a perfectionist like me, for example, we tend to be very, very hard on ourselves. And the more we study, it doesn't matter. We always think, I'm not good enough. I'm not good
mm.
enough. And I
So
think
how do
when I'm
you
thinking,
Yeah, just on that point there, Betsaida, you're a perfectionist, and so you've got this narrative in your head going that's telling you it's not good enough yet. You've got to get better. You've got to get better. How do you overcome that? Is it just intentionally recognizing that thought and telling yourself, no, failure is a learning opportunity, as you're describing before with a piece of paper, or how do you overcome that problem?
this is exactly what I do, Joe. Exactly what I do. So for me, it's funny because I've created put this thought together a few years ago that making mistakes is especially important to learning, but I wouldn't apply that to my own life. And eventually, after speak to lead, after having been with me in therapy and things happening, people telling me, I realized, well, I believe in that. So why don't I just go for it? And then this is actually what I decided to do. Really, taking this perfectionism and putting it away. Uh, I remember I have to talk about it. I'm sorry, I have to talk about it. Um,
Please,
in the Bible, I'm a Christian, so I'm gonna quote the Bible. For me, is the most important source of authority. In the Bible, it's going to describe how God created the world, and some people might be familiar with that. And when God finishes creating animals, for example, He'll say, God saw that this was good. Oh, He created the trees. God saw that this was good. God created the sea, the animals, this and that. God said that this was good. And my therapist made me think the other day, why am I trying to be perfect if perfect only He is, and I'm here only supposed to be good? And something clicked.
mm.
And I go, oh wow. So it's like heavy weight coming off my shoulders. And I go, I don't have to be perfect. Because as a person of faith, of course, you might not have faith if you're listening to me, but as a person of faith, I'll go, oh, I don't have to be perfect anymore. Only God is perfect. I just have to be good. And it's enough to be good. If I'm creation, if I'm His creation, I just have to be good. So I try to always remind myself of that because I really have perfectionist thoughts sometimes. I tend to be controlling sometimes, but bringing that, I just have to be good. I just have to be good. And I know I can be good. It is hard for a perfectionist. I know I might not be reaching everybody when I call the Bible, because also it has to do with faith, but think about your own religion, your own God, or your own force. What do you think? Does your God really believe that you have to be perfect, or even being, I don't know, person that doesn't believe in anything? Do you really believe that everybody out there is perfect? Or if you believe in nature, for example, even nature is not perfect. Nothing is perfect. If we see in a point of view like it's beautiful, it develops, it's perfect, but at the same time you see the little flaws which makes it perfect. So all flaws makes us perfect. And it is hard to always have that thought on top of my head, but I try. I have to try.
That's a brilliant insight. So interesting that your therapist pointed that out, and that was the thing that just clicked for you. That's
Yeah.
I'd also never thought of it in that way of God said it was good. He didn't say it was perfect. He said it was
Hmm.
good, and that was enough. Yeah,
That was enough.
brilliant insight. Wow. Well, we're going to wrap up now. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience before we do?
Um, just would like to say that if you are a non-native English speaker and willing to move abroad, but not confident about your own English, your own skills, don't stress. Just do it. We're human beings, and that's exactly how we learn. We learn on the way. We learn going. We go, and there we learn. So chill. Don't worry. Just go. Follow your dreams. It is hard sometimes to follow our dreams, but it's completely worth it. If this is what you want to do, just do it. And just to say thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. It's been a pleasure to be here, Joel. And I hope to be with you again in the future very soon. It was really, really fun today, and hope to see you again.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Betsaida. Yes, I've really enjoyed the conversation and taken a lot from it, and I'm sure the viewers out there will too. And if you are watching and are somebody who wants to improve your communication skills, get some of that positive feedback and inspiration and encouragement, then I do highly recommend you join the Oracy Club. The link will be in the description below. And if you're also wanting to improve on your communication as a professional so that you can reach those leadership positions and be able to communicate in a way that people really understand you, then I highly recommend you also check out the Speak to Lead program. A link for that will also be in the description. Thank you once again, Betsaida, and
You're
I
welcome.
will see you hopefully sometime soon.
See
All right.
ya.
Bye.
Bye.